these headaches were so bad that nothing was taken, nothing. I couldn't lay down. I couldn't stand. I was dizzy. I was falling over. And he kind of was like, okay, let's just take it day by day at this time. And then I was out one afternoon, I believe it was with my sister and a couple of friends, and we were at her work and we had lunch, and I went blind. I could not see anything at all. And that lasted only about 10 to 15 minutes, but long enough to scare you. So I immediately called my OB, and he goes, okay, you need to go get your eyes checked. I said, okay. So I called my husband. He came home, and we went, just the only place that was open during that time of day was one of the places at the mall. And so they checked my pressure in my eyes. They did everything. And the doctor said I had papilledema. The eye doctor did. And he said, I know my husband's first question was, what causes that? And he said a brain tumor. And we just kind of sat there because I was 5 months pregnant. And so we just kind of stared at each other. And then he was like, let me call your OB and find out what he wants to do. So my OB called me back and said, hey, I've got you scheduled for next morning with the neurologist, and we'll go from there. So we had to wait all night, which was the longest, however many hours that was. Nobody slept. We stayed over at my mom and dad's, and the appointment was I know it was the first appointment, so I want to say it was like 8 a.m. And when we got there, the neurologist immediately said, I don't think you have a brain tumor. I honestly think I know what this is, but he wouldn't say. And he goes, but I need to run I would normally do an MRI, but with you being pregnant, I need to do a CT scan. So we had that scheduled for a little bit later on. And so we all went out to lunch, went back, had the CT scan, and he goes, you have no mass. Your brain's fine. He goes, you have pseudotumor cerebri, which is what they called it back then.
Right.
And he goes, with your vision being doubled now, because it had gone to double where, like, you know, everything that you see is doubled. He goes, the only thing that's going to help that is to do a spinal tap. Being 5 months pregnant, that was not easy.
Wow.
So my husband was pushing up on my legs, and he's pushing down on my, you know, the upper part of your back to get you curled up. And he did great. And that fluid came off, and I was fine. My vision came back later on that evening. I started taking Diamox, and I did fine even after delivery. That had no complications. I stayed on the Diamox through the rest of the pregnancy. Obviously, my eyes were checked all the time with field of vision tests, and I was seeing a neuro-ophthalmologist along with my neurosurgeon and my OB.
I have a question, Andrea. So for that moment when you went blind, what was that like?
Scary. Very scary. It was, I had no idea. It was like somebody just flipped a switch and turned the lights out, and I didn't know what to do. Somebody had to drive my car home, obviously, because not knowing what was going on, I honestly did not know what in the world could be happening. And being pregnant as well, it was scary.
I can imagine.
With having the headaches on top of it, you know, you don't want to cry because, you know, they say crying makes your headaches worse. And it was just, even my husband was like, he's like, I don't understand. James was like, are you sure that you can't see anything? I'm like, I cannot see anything.
Did it make you hysterical? I know you were having migraines, but did it take several people to calm you down when it happened?
Yes. My friend at the time, she tried, And she said, we'll figure this out. It's, obviously probably something nothing, but we'll figure it out. And I talked to my husband, and he became not hysterical, but obviously worried.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up leaving work to be able to take me to the eye doctor.
Mm. How has, since you were diagnosed, how has IIH altered your life overall? If you had to sum it up, what would you say?
I was the one that ran the kids everywhere. I did all the grocery shopping, all the cooking, all the cleaning. And my husband was working, and I lost it all, basically. I have my kids, I have my husband who's still by my side, but I've lost friends because they didn't believe that I was sick. They thought I was faking it. I'm disabled now because I'm legally blind, so I can't work. I have major nerve pain from all the surgeries and everything, so it did a complete 180. You went from being a very independent person to having to depend on people, which I was never that way.
How many surgeries have you had?
I've had total 30, if you include the optic nerve sheath fenestration that was done on my right eye.
Mm. And so you have a VP and an LP shunt. Most people wouldn't know what they are. Tell us about those.
A VP shunt is a shunt that starts in your brain, and it goes into your fourth ventricle, and it drains down into your peritoneum cavity. So it comes up from your head, goes down behind your ear, and then obviously they thread it all throughout. And then the lumbar shunt is placed in your around L4, L5 in your back and your spinal canal. And then the valve is actually sutured in under by your floating ribs. So that one cannot be controlled. You can't turn it up or turn it down, but then it also drains into your peritoneum cavity.
So you're about to get some revisions done to both shunts, and why? How did you know that you needed these revisions?
Because you can tell when they stop working.
How
Because
so?
everything comes back. The tinnitus, the heartbeat in the ear, the pressures you feel are 1,000 times higher than, or stronger, I should say, than what they were. And you can also feel the valve fill up, and it's never going down at all. And then I've also got a big lump behind my ear, which my neurosurgeon believes is a collection of spinal fluid as well.
Mm. So with that being said, I've had 3 surgeries, and so I still was experiencing some of the same symptoms, and they have not changed my shunt whatsoever. So I was curious about that. So what are some of the other symptoms that you have experienced that led you to believe that the shunts were not working? I know you say the pressure. How do you know if the pressure is high? I know a lot of people, sometimes they'll ask, what's the difference between low pressure and high pressure?
Well, low pressure normally is relieved by laying down. So say you get a spinal tap done, and I think out of all the spinal taps I've had, I've only had 1 or 2 blood patches done. They tell you to drink a lot of water, a lot of caffeine. That will help. Ibuprofen will help bring the low pressures, obviously under control. But if you sit up with a low pressure, you've got a completely different type of headache, and you feel like you want to vomit as well. But a high pressure it doesn't matter your position. You have it when you lay down, you have it sitting up, you have it while you're walking, you have it while you're standing. You get, like I said, the tinnitus, because normally with a low pressure, you don't have the tinnitus normally. I'll say normally. Not everybody, come on, not everybody, everybody's symptoms are different because not everybody has papilledema. Not everybody loses field of vision or peripheral vision. Not everybody has horrible headaches, but their pressures are high.
Mhm.
So it's really individual. And my neurosurgeon, he knows just as well. I mean, it's really bad when your neurosurgeon says, you know, I see you more often than I see my wife and kids. Because
Wow.
during the time of having all those surgeries, I was there every week or every other week. So it's like a second home for the entire family.
What is a good day like for you?
A good day is being able to thank God that I wake up and I'm here. And I will get up, obviously, wake, you know, my husband up for work, get the other kids up because we have 3 kids total, and pray that I can be able to take the dog out. And I always do. But if the headaches are so bad, I'm in bed. I've got ice packs on my head. I've taken ibuprofen, but I'm not on Diamox or Topamax currently because everything was kind of under control. I learned to deal with the barometric pressure changes, and you can tell beforehand that that's going to happen. Like my husband has always said, you know, I should be a meteorologist because I can tell when it's going to rain before they ever say anything. So
How so?
the pressure you can feel the pressure changing, and you can feel it's almost like your head gets really full before the headache and it's heavy, and then all of a sudden the headache is so bad that again you can either be vomiting or not, or it makes you dizzy, off balance, tired. you,
Mm.
you can't function. It's like I was doing dishes the other day and my pressure was so high and I was leaning over and I got sick.
Mm. Prior to you being diagnosed with IIH, I know you've had time to think about it, like leading up to the day when it first happened, when you lost your vision for that moment. If you go back in time, think about some of the symptoms that you probably was experiencing but didn't know. Have you ever just thought? Because I know I think a lot too. And go
Yeah.
back in time is like, when did it happen? You know.
When did it happen? That's a hard one. I've always dealt with what I thought were migraines. Were they? Now, thinking about it, no. When you look back on it, they were probably, I would probably have this a lot longer, probably my teenage years.
Mm.
That's just,
Wow.
my vision didn't really start to, honestly, after delivering our first child. When I went into remission, my vision didn't go downhill so quickly until 2006, from March of 2006 to September of 2006. And that's when I lost, within 2006 to 2007, I lost all peripheral vision in both eyes. So,
Wow. How long were you in remission? Because typically when you hear people talk about being in remission, you think about people who have cancer. But
right.
people who have IIH can go into remission. So how long was it for you that you
I delivered our JD, our oldest, in March of 98. And I was considered in remission a year after that. And then I did not really be noticed like major symptoms until like December of 2005, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together
Mhm.
that my IH had come back. until I went and saw an ENT, and he said that there wasn't anything he could do with the tinnitus and the headaches. And then I went, whoa, hold up. And I backed up and I went, this is the same stuff that happened back when I was pregnant. And so I called my neurosurgeon, and he had to get my medical records out of storage. And then he said it was back. So, and that was obviously confirmed with a spinal tap.
What do you think you did different to go in remission? Because for the people who've been living with it for many years, and you know, sometimes doctors tell you if you lose weight, it will lessen your symptoms or it will get rid of it. So what did you do?
My weight has always fluctuated. I didn't gain any weight with our first child, so that really didn't have much play on it. My weight's always gone up and down, and even going up and down, being at my lowest, it didn't help. So that's a hard one.
Well, do you think since you have been diagnosed and you figured out what was going on, do you think you have gained weight since having IIH?
Well, quarantine has made me gain weight too. Yeah, because your activity level isn't as high as what you want it to be. I'm not able to exercising. The pressure gets really high. Now, if your shunts are working, then hopefully you don't experience that. And there's been times where walking and taking long walks with the kids, or, you know, my daughter does all-star cheer and we're running around the venues that, you know, make these huge convention centers, and that hasn't bothered me. But when your pressure's up and you're out of remission, you're like, feel like you're a snail.
Mm-hmm. So how do you get around? Are you able to walk without using any, like a walker or anything like that? You can walk.
I can still walk. Yeah.
You can walk. So question for you then, with that being said, has your doctor recommended weight loss surgery? I know my doctor has recommended it for me, and I've given it
He did,
some thought.
but I didn't meet the requirements back then. My BMI wasn't high enough, and with the how tall I am, so they pushed that aside. And then my neurosurgeon was like, okay, you fluctuate so much that it doesn't seem to with you. He honestly doesn't think that the weight is an issue with me.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, you know, even with when we started off with one shunt, my body was producing twice as much after having that shunt, twice as much spinal fluid. It was like, hey, I'm going to play this game. You know, you're going to put this in to drain it, but I'm going to make twice as much more.
And what did your doctor tell you was a contributing cause of your body producing excessive spinal fluid?
He has no idea.
And I knew the answer, but I want you to share with everybody. We don't know why we retain spinal fluid.
Nope.
And so I'm just really, for you to just have IIH and not a CSF leak or hydrocephalus, I just don't, because you retain, it's so much fluid, and I'm trying to understand why it keeps happening. What do you think is the reason why? I know several worries, we probably have tried to wrap our minds around this and trying to figure out, like, what is causing this? Is it something in the air? Is it something we're eating? You know, something that we're coming in contact with on a day-to-day basis. What do you think it is, if you had to guess?
Honestly, I have no idea. I thought at one point it was, you know, maybe salt intake, cut out salt. I thought it could have been red meat at one point. I don't eat a lot of red meat. I'm lactose intolerant, as my daughter is, who's behind me. So you can sit there and you can try to pick things out that you would think would lead to it, but there's nothing that stands out at all.
We'll come up short every time.
Yeah.
In some research that I've done, I have noticed that some of the same symptoms that we have with IIH is similar to what people who were exposed to mold. I don't know if you ever
No.
research it concerning mold, but you'll be surprised how inhaling that will affect you overall. So when you get an opportunity, I want you to look it up.
I will, definitely, because I'm highly allergic to mold.
Yes, yes.
So that was the other thing that my neurosurgeon did say. I am allergic to so many things,
Mm-hmm.
not just antibiotic wise, but indoor, outdoor molds, foods now. I have progressive allergies that you wouldn't think that a person of my age would, like my kids. Most kids can have latex balloons. No, they can't, because I had a progressive latex allergy, and that they didn't understand when they were little why they couldn't have balloons in the house. It could be mold, I don't know. It could be birth controls. I was on birth control for PCOS and endometriosis.
Saw something about that as well.
Yeah.
I saw an ad with an attorney saying that if you were taking birth control between a certain time period, it could have caused IIH. But then you have men who suffer with IIH as well. So then hey, we're back to ground zero again.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot more being diagnosed. I don't know if it's a lot more that's being diagnosed because we're getting the word out, or if it's the environment. But you've got kids that are, I know one of Catherine's all-star cheer teammates, her mom has IH, and so does her daughter, who was, how old was Paige at the time? She was 11 years old when she was diagnosed. There's kids, there's men, because the original diagnosis that I got, they told me that it was women in their childbearing ages are the ones that normally end up, and back then it was called pseudotumor cerebri, which they still call it that, but a lot of doctors now call it IIH. So I think that's the more formal term, because pseudo means fake, and idiopathic is basically the same thing. It's a false tumor. So
Right.
you have a false brain tumor. There's no rhyme or reason, but there is a lot more people that are being diagnosed, like you said, men, children.
You seem to be of good cheer for a person who's had 30 brain surgeries. I mean, excuse me, 30 surgeries overall, and you've had over 300 spinal taps, honey.
Yes.
You are mighty calm right now. What is your secret, honey? Because I've had three. There's some people out there who've had maybe over 10, someone who's had their first one. I mean, how do you stay so, of good cheer? What's your secret, honey? Tell everybody what it is.
My kids, it wasn't always that way. There was a time where I did think about committing suicide when I was going through all the surgeries, but I knew I had to be here for my children and my husband, and to be able to find what was causing this for everybody. Is it going to happen in my lifetime? I hope so, but we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Plus my doctor, my neurosurgeon, is amazing. When I started screaming during one of the many spinal taps that was done under fluoroscopy and not just bedside, and he heard me screaming, he had walked by and he was like, stop, because the needle came out like just in like different shapes. It was awful.
Wow.
And it was because I have so much scar tissue, and they were hitting different nerves just trying to get in. And he goes, from now on, all your taps are done under full anesthesia, which is done by him, which is my neurosurgeon. So I think the main thing is finding a doctor that is compassionate, but yet will fight for you as well. And
Mm-hmm.
then having the support. Unfortunately, my husband and I really don't have our parents left. So my mom had died suddenly in 2003. So 3 years, she was there for when I was originally diagnosed, but when I started going through all the surgeries, I didn't have that. I didn't have the friends that were there to support me because they all left. They all walked away. They don't see you as sick. They see somebody that looks fine. They see somebody that can walk. They see somebody that can still watch TV. They don't understand how, but I don't see what you see on the TV as a normal person would. It's almost like taking toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls, putting them up to your eyes. All peripheral vision in both eyes, inside and out, are gone.
Why do you think, Andrea, that they walked away, you know? And keep in mind, I understand what you mean when what you're saying, but I want you to tell everybody, why do you think they walked away?
Because they can't see it. They don't understand. They think that you're lying. Mm-hmm. And even though they can hear from the doctor, or I can bring home, the records from my doctor saying, my opening pressure was over 60 and hit the ceiling. They think that, oh, well, I know one of my friends said that I was going into the bathroom before having a spinal tap and doing jumping jacks to raise my spinal pressure. And that's not how it works. We know that. Because by the time you get in there anyways, it would, even if that was the thing, it wouldn't work. Because, they've got to clean your back off. They've got to do the fluoroscopy to find the placement to get in. And if you have a shunt in, they don't want to hit the tubing or anything. So I think, honestly, they don't know how to handle somebody that is sick, that they physically can't see that's sick.
Exactly. I also have another fellow warrior that sometimes she posts and, she's doing really well. And then next thing you know, she posts again, she's having a bad day. Yep. And so if you think that is confusing by watching someone on social media or by what they're telling you, that they're having a good day, then the next day they're having a bad day, it's just as confusing to a warrior who's going through this.
Yes.
A lot of times people, because of what they see that even though you can watch TV, just like you explained a moment ago, it's different. You see TV different now from others. And so trying to get people to understand that they don't always understand it unless they're going through it. And the reason why we're having this talk tonight is to raise awareness, especially for people. What we're trying to do, Andrea, and I thank you for coming on, and we're not finished yet. But the reason why we're having this conversation is for people who could be living with IIH and don't even know they're living with IIH.
Exactly.
That's why we're trying to get the word out. Another part of this interview tonight is to not only raise awareness, but also to share how caregivers, how they deal with one of their loved ones going through this. Because again, if we didn't have the support that we have, it would be difficult for us to go through this. Andrea just mentioned that she wanted to take her life at one point. And had it not been for your husband and your children, you probably would have succeeded. And I'm so glad that you didn't, because you still have purpose, Andrea.
Right.
And so many people, if you're a warrior, if it's IIH, you still have purpose. Do not take your life. We will get through this together. Now, I would like to hear from your husband, Andrea, if he has a moment.
Yeah.
I do.
Here, Here, just go in my spot.
Oh, that's okay.
Go ahead.
Switch. Hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm living on the top side of the dirt, so I take that as a win.
Well, you know what? I tell you, I've read Andrea's story, and she mentioned you and your children and everything, and I would just like to hear from you. How has it been knowing that your wife has IIH? How has it been for you? How has it made you feel?
Well, asking how it made me feel, that's kind of a loaded question there, because it runs the full gamut of emotions because, like she said, when we first found out, and the eye doctor says, well, this particular condition is caused by brain tumors. 5 months pregnant, just married. Yeah, that's a huge shock to the system. And
You thought you were going to lose both of us.
Exactly. I thought I was going to lose both my wife and my child. But I mean, the way that this condition has really changed our family is actually it's really done a very good thing for us, and it's made us stronger. I mean, yeah, we still have our moments where we bicker and yell at each other. I mean, what family doesn't go through arguments and discussions about different things? But we understand there's a new set of limitations that we have. You know, we know that mom can't be the go-to person like she used to be before she was diagnosed.
Which it drives me nuts.
So they have to turn to me for, you know, getting places and being able to do things and stuff like that. So what she was, I had to take on a lot of what she had to do, being the caregiver of the family, plus work and support the family at the same time. So it can be very overwhelming some days. But, you know, I mean, we had our rough patches, especially when she was going through the surgeries.
I didn't have insurance.
Yeah, there was a point where she didn't have insurance. Fortunately, the doctor worked with us.
But we did lose our house to do it.
Yeah, because of all of the medication that she was on. And it was like, okay,
and the surgeries.
Do I make the house payment now, or do I make sure that my wife has the medicine she needs to be able to have, you know, some semblance of a life? And there's so many things that we've gone through as a family that has definitely brought us closer together.
Right.
We appreciate the fact of the matter that, you know, like I said, I woke up on the top side of the dirt this morning. You know, every day that I wake up and I see the ceiling or the sky, I know it's going to be a good day.
Exactly.
Yes.
Describe a time. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think we got your name. I know your name, but if you could tell everyone your name.
No, I'm James. James McDonald.
James, the wonderful husband of Andrea. So James, tell us a time that you saw outside of the time when Andrea was pregnant. Tell us about another time that you've seen her at her worst with this condition. Just one of those times that it was really hard.
There's been a couple. The one that comes to mind right off the top of my head was one night she had a surgery, or one day she had a surgery, and I was going to bring the kids up to see her, and she was having a particularly rough go coming out of the anesthesia. She was getting very violently sick and things like that. And by this time, we had gotten to know a lot of the nurses on the floors that she would normally recover in on a first-name basis. Not necessarily know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but at this point, it was a good thing. And she had actually stepped out of the room, and she's like, I honestly don't think it would be a good idea to bring the kids in at their age because they wouldn't want to see their mother in this condition. To which I agreed. They were a little too young to really kind of wrap their head around what was going on. I mean, they knew that their mom was in the hospital, but what exactly was happening to her during the surgeries and right after the surgeries, they didn't really kind of put two and two together at the time. But I was able to go in and see her before I took my kids back home. And she was at her wit's end, you know, between getting sick because of the anesthesia or by the pressures and not, you know, and her vision and everything. Yet she had felt like she was ready to give up. And I had just came up to her and I'm like, I know this is a rough spot, but throughout any sort of battle, if you will, you know, you're going to have these rough spots, and you fight through them. Because if you give up, then what does that do? That just, shows that you don't have the heart for it. And I know she does. And I knew she did. But at that point in time, she didn't. She was at a low spot. I always tell my kids, it's, not how we celebrate our victories, but how we deal with adversities that really, truly show what type of person you are. Right. And, that's kind of what I had to remind Andrea about when she was, going through some of these rougher surgeries and that. I know when she had the laminectomy, that was
wheelchair bound.
That was really rough for her because, she was wheelchair bound. She couldn't physically get up and walk because of having this larger bore catheter in her back.
All the infections, and then all of meningitis.
The pain she was dealing with because of that.
Can I say something to you, James?
Sure.
I'm not an emotional person whatsoever, but at times I get emotional. And I want to say, I know your wife probably has told you thank you often over and over again, but I want to thank you too on her behalf, because there's so many people who are not patient enough to deal with people when they have a chronic illness and they're in chronic pain and their lives have been altered, and you have been by her side all this time. And what I discern about you as a husband, that you're in this with her, you're in this together. And sometimes people leave, they walk out and they give up because they don't know how to take this condition. It's already difficult enough living with it and not knowing why it's really happening. But for people like yourself, I know you don't typically, if someone said thank you for what you're doing, you don't want that, you don't need that, but I have to say it to you. Because I know there are times when you get by yourself, James, I don't know what goes through your head, but I do know that you are a fighter too. And that's why she's still here.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. I mean, yes, it does take a certain amount of, or a certain type of person to really deal with somebody who's been affected by any sort of life-altering disease, whether it be IIH, whether it be TRA, cancer. I mean, you name it. You have to be very strong. You do have to be very strong. I mean, I was fortunate in kind of a twisted way. I was fortunate enough to have to deal with certain things in growing up in my life that it gave me that strength. And I was able to use that in helping Andrea out with, when she was first diagnosed, and then through the first round of surgeries after all the medicines and more weren't working. And it's just, when you marry somebody,
right?
It's, till death do you part through, sorry, that just came out a little weird. Till death do us part.
Exactly.
In rich and poor, sickness
and health. Yeah.
You make that commitment. And some people, I don't know if they forget about that. Some people, I don't know if they aren't just strong-willed enough to remember, hey, I didn't sign up for this. Did I sign up for to have IH? No. If I had the choice to be able to go back and make things different for her, I would do it in a heartbeat. But you have to be able to be willing to give of yourself and make sacrifices to help those who need it.
Exactly.
And, there's some people just aren't wired that way, unfortunately.
Question: what feelings have you suppressed that you didn't want her to know? This is one thing that you can think of right now, outside of the fear of losing her, because I do remember you saying that early on, the fear of losing her and your baby. But has there been anything else that you suppressed that you never told her, that if given today, you would want her to know?
I try to be as open with her as possible. And yeah, the fear of losing her definitely was a huge thing. Anxieties, because if something were to happen, you know, how would I be able to manage the family completely by myself? You know, there's certain things that she can answer for my daughter that I could, but I don't think it would have quite the impact coming from me as it would be coming from mom.
Right.
So I always had that in the back of my mind.
Gotcha. James, what do you wish people knew about this disease? You know, just out of everything that your wife has gone through, what do you wish people knew?
Well, I wish they would understand exactly how debilitating the disease is. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, well, you don't look sick. There's nothing wrong with you." And they don't understand that what you see on the outside isn't what's going on inside.
Right.
The headaches and the vision. I mean, I couldn't even. I tried doing the paper towel roll thing, like she was saying earlier about how to see what it's like without peripheral vision, and I still wrapping my head around being able to live without seeing everything. It just I have no way to explain it. I can't truly understand how she is able to deal with this, but I'm glad that she is. But not everybody that appears normal is.
Exactly.
Got to give those people
I can feel normal
at least, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt.
Mhm.
When her friends were saying, "Oh, you're not sick, you're doing this to raise your pressure and all of this," I'm like, I at one point in time, because I did not know about how the disease worked, and
that was a nurse telling me, my friend,
things. It you know, I kind of believed it at one point in time, and I know that she was upset with me about that, and in retrospect, I completely understand why, because she felt like maybe I didn't trust her enough at that point in time. But not knowing how certain things happen and how they how your body reacts to them, just not knowing is half the battle. I mean, if I had known then what I know now about it, then I would have known the person who was saying all of this stuff was either misinformed or full of BS. Pardon my bluntness, but you know,
yes, I understand.
It's just give the people the benefit of the doubt and listen to them.
Exactly.
If you have the chance to speak with their doctors, listen to their doctors. They're the ones who go to the school and they are trained on these diseases and things. Yeah, some of them may be learning along the way because there's medicine and technology and everything's always constantly evolving. So there's always newer ways to diagnose things. There's newer ways to research things. There's newer ways to treat things. And it's constantly changing. So we're all constantly learning as it goes. But having just a good basic knowledge of it definitely helps out a lot in the long run.
Exactly. So James, if resources were not an issue, what do you wish was available for people with IIH?
Oh, that's a good one because well, in resources, I'm going to kind of expand on that question a little bit of yours. I'm going to allow the resources not only of, say, my wife, myself, my family, but also
the kids have
the people that treat them, the people that take care of them, the people that diagnose and do the surgeries and things. I would love nothing more than for there to be at least a more generalized treatment pattern. Because there's so many different things that can cause the disease or that can affect the disease in positive or negative ways. I would love for a doctor to be able to come in, maybe read a field division test, or if it needed to be, do a spinal exam or an MRI and say, okay, yes, this is what this is. Here's how we're going to treat it. And this is, across the board, and make it easier for everybody, because it's now being a little bit more widely known, but it still doesn't have quite the traction as, like, say, a cancer or diabetes.
Exactly.
But it needs to get to that. I think there's a lot more people out there that have this disease that maybe have been misdiagnosed, maybe don't really kind of understand it. Like Andrea was saying earlier, she was dealing with migraines, and she had those, before we'd even started dating. And was that a precursor to all of this? Possibly. Was it the IH actually affecting her at that point in time? Maybe.
Birth control.
Is it something due to hormonal, which I personally believe that it has a lot to do with a hormonal imbalance, because with what Andrea was saying earlier about her going through the pregnancies of our children and everything, she was on Diamox with our first child, and she stopped taking it when we found out we were pregnant with our second. From the time that she found out she was pregnant with our middle child until she stopped breastfeeding our youngest, my daughter, she didn't have any of the complications, didn't have the headaches, at least not to the severity. Everybody has headaches, but didn't have the division issues or anything like that. Once she stopped breastfeeding my daughter, she started getting the complications back. She started getting the severe headaches, started getting the blurred vision and the double vision. And she had, probably about 2 months after that, she had said to me, I think my IH is coming back. My pseudotumor at the time was coming back. So it was tracked down the neurosurgeon or the neurologist who at this time had moved campuses. He had completely switched to a different hospital. But in retrospect, that was a blessing in disguise, because we were able to get a hold of one of the best neurosurgeons in the country to take care of her. But
Question for you: what state is your neurosurgeon located in, just in case someone's watching tonight and would like to know?
he's in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'll shamelessly plug him. His name is Dr. Michael Chacoin. He's with Washington University Barnes Jewish in St. Louis, and downtown. And he is fantastic. As a matter of fact, there's been a couple of people that Andrea has come in contact with through Facebook, through her IH groups and stuff, that we've recommended him to, and I believe that they want to seek treatment from him. He's just
did the article.
He did an article on her at one point in time also, because when she had her VP shunt in along with the LP shunt, she was one of probably less than a half dozen people in the United States that was living with 2 shunts in her body. And he did a report on that, or write up about that, because it's at that time was not common.
Exactly. And this is I've heard of someone, but not, having 2 shunts, but this is the first for me. And VP and the LP. And so, Andrea, what is it like living with 2 shunts?
It's really pretty much the same. My VP shunt is programmable, so I can't go through your normal magnetic, like through the airport. I have to have them scan me, like with that one device. I can't
With
go
the wands.
Yeah, with the wand. Because it will reset, and
The VP?
only my neurosurgeon can set it, because you can't take that. It's like a huge suitcase looking thing.
Yeah, it's It's definitely bigger than like a laptop suitcase, but it's about the size of a small suitcase that you would have to take around that has the device in it to program. And
it can either open it up more, or it's to allow for more flow, or he can close it to allow for less flow. Now my
wow.
LP one is just a fixed shunt. It's the valve can't be programmed.
yeah,
I think he can program it in the ER, or in the OR, I mean,
before it's installed.
before it's installed.
And see, this is something new that I have heard of, because with my VP shunt, I don't have to be, I can walk through the metal detector and not have any problems and it not go off. So because of your setting, I'm sure, what is your setting on?
Oh, I think hers is wide open.
Yeah, mine's wide open. It's open as far as it can go.
Does it go up to a 10? I'm actually on 1 right now.
I think it does go up to a 10.
Yeah, I think so.
So you're at 10. Oh, wow. Bless you. Bless you. James, what do you want Andrea to know right now? After everything that she's gone through, what do you want her to know right now?
Well, I want her to know that I feel that she's one of the strongest people that I know, for having to have dealt with this disease and still constantly dealing with it. Also dealing with me because, yeah, I come off as very jovial, but there's days that just everything kind of comes crashing down on you, and I can get a little short fused. Fortunately, she understands that, and she, smack me upside of the head and say, get back in your right mind. But I appreciate that. And I want her to know that I everything that she does, everything that she tries to do, even though she may not feel up to it, I can't thank her enough for that.
Thank you.
Till the end of time, and that's never going to change.
That's sweet. Andrea, what do you want James to know right now?
That
We want to see your face if we can in the camera.
that him being there with me through everything, and obviously the kids were younger, but they remember a lot, but they had questions. Like Kat is here, by the way, Catherine. So if you want her,
Yes, Catherine.
He's never turned around and walked away. He didn't sign up for this at all. We got married in April of 97, and it was kind of like he could have very easily turned around and walked away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I was diagnosed, it was at the end of 97 when I was 5 months pregnant. So, because we had him in March of 98. So yeah, I mean, he didn't have to stand by my side or go through this roller coaster of, I know one thing, I ended up with a bowel blockage, and he walked in and I had that tube shoved down my nose to empty because it had gotten into my stomach. And I think that was really hard for him to see, because we would always go down, even after surgery, he would take me down with the kids to the cafeteria, and he walked in and he was just silent. And I knew that right there that he didn't know how to handle, I guess, the
Mm-hmm.
look of having a tube shoved down somebody's nose, and there's, taking out basically feces out of your stomach from the bowel blockage.
Wow.
But he was there, and he didn't turn around and walk. He could have turned around and walked out. I wouldn't have been surprised if he did. I probably would have too.
Mm.
But he had to take, he would bring the kids up every night. And other than that one time where, unfortunately, that particular anesthesiologist did not read back in my charts on what not to give me, like use the same cocktail type thing. And that's why I ended up so violently sick. I mean, even my neurosurgeon said, call the anesthesiologist. He has to fix this.
Mm.
And we're about, what, 30, 45 minutes away from downtown Barnes?
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes from here.
Yeah, and he would bring the kids down every time. Now, I'm a stubborn patient. So my neurosurgeon found out real quick after my very first surgery that I did better recovering at home. Don't keep me in the hospital. Let me go home. Let me be with my kids, my husband, and I'll come back the next day if you want. So he's always been there, and he just never walked away. And I think that being newly married, and it's amazing that he didn't walk away, I guess.
Exactly. Because that's one thing when you get married and you're newlywed, you never know what to expect. You thinking that, okay, like he
Right.
was saying, for richer, for poor, and sickness and in health. And when you make those vows, you really don't know what is coming
No,
after
you
you
don't.
make those vows. And so he stood the test of time. And that's why I had to extend my gratitude to him for being there for you. Because again, there's so many people who, and yours, I had a former client years ago, and I never forget, she thought she had pneumonia. And I remember going to the doctor with her. And when she went, the doctor told her that she could continue smoking. And
Oh,
she, yes, thought she had pneumonia. So we went back for a follow-up appointment, only to find out it was stage 3 lung cancer. And when all of that happened, her husband, he left her. She lost her job, could no longer afford the insurance anymore because COBRA was so expensive.
Oh, yeah, it's awful.
And she didn't live 5 months after that.
Oh, wow.
It was a devastating time. So that's why I had to tell James, thank you for being there for you, because one, a lot of people can't take it. A lot of people not built for this. And so, I just have to commend him over and over again. And James, before I get to your daughter, Andrea, when you have your moments, when you get really stressed out, because we all at some point in our lives get really stressed out, Andrea could come to you. But who do you go to when you need that moment to vent as a man?
Well, I mean, I do go to my wife as well.
Okay. I love your team. That's the team. I love it.
I mean, I've got some friends too that understand the situation. One of my best friends that I've known since 7th grade. He was the best man at my wedding. He just he's getting ready to turn 51, as I just did a couple of weeks ago. He was the person that, if you ever have one of those friends that you grow up with, and as you get older through college and, your early 20s and stuff like that, even though your families, you may have lives on your own and you may separate and do your own things, but the instant you call them on the phone, it's just like you talked with them yesterday. He's that type of person. He and his wife and his family know about what we've gone through. And I call him from time to time, especially if I get a little too, overwhelmed.
Right.
And like Andrea said earlier, I don't have my parents. Both of my parents passed. And just a little backstory with that, I was actually adopted when I was 2 months old. So my adoptive parents both had passed. But here recently, over the past, 2 years ago, I was able to find my birth parents, and I've been in contact with them. And I have contacted my mom, albeit, through text message or Facebook message, because she lives in Florida. And
but she's still learning about it.
And yeah, again, she's, like she said, she's still learning about it. But it's a parental thing. It doesn't matter what the stress is about, but they're going to be there to at least console you and help you through as best that they can.
Yes.
And there was a point in time before I came across them that I was like, I don't have anybody to turn to really, parental wise. So that was a little bit of a rough go, but that's when we leaned on each other a little bit just to make it through.
Well, even like part of our extended family, my aunt, she, because she couldn't see it, the actual disease on the outside, she didn't understand and didn't want to hear it. So we couldn't even turn to her, Linda.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, that goes back to it being invisible and people not understanding that you can feel fine in the morning or, one day and turn around and 20 minutes later, you're down for the count for the rest of the day.
And it affects everybody differently. And so, based off your journey, yours is different from mine, but it's the same thing. And so what I'm learning, Andrea, and I'm sure you have too, is to seize every moment that we've been given. We're very fortunate. I don't know about you, but I haven't heard about anybody passing away. I only heard about one person because they refused treatment.
I've heard of a few.
Yes, I heard of one that passed because she just absolutely refused treatment. And so you've heard of a few as well?
Yes, it's actually in one of the groups that on Facebook that I first originally joined. Her name was Amy, and it was 10 years ago yesterday that she had passed from IH. And we're not sure, they couldn't exactly pinpoint, but they said it was from IH. They just didn't know. She didn't have a stroke. She didn't have a heart attack. It was the fluid. So whether her body just was tired and gave out, I'm not sure. And her husband at the time said her body was tired. She wasn't tired. She was still fighting, but her body became tired. And she was young. She was born in 80, so she's younger than me.
Wow. That's, it's sad. And where's your daughter?
She's right here.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'll switch spots with you.
You take the puppy.
And
the puppy was trying to get in the shot.
And I'm excited about meeting your whole family tonight, and I thank you for your flexibility tonight.
Oh, no problem.
So who is this beautiful young lady we have here before us tonight?
I'm Kat.
Catherine.
Catherine. How are you, Catherine?
I'm doing good.
I know you have a whole lot to say. I know it's been a journey for you to experience this with your mom because she didn't experience it by herself. How has it made you feel, Catherine?
It's really scary because every time that she would go in the hospital, I was only like 5 years old. So not knowing why she kept leaving and being scared that she might not come back was really hard.
And you were bullied.
And I've been bullied because of it. Like
really?
Kids at my school would be like, well, where's your mom? Like, she's not even here. She doesn't care about you. Like, you don't have a mom. Like, she's never around. Like, where is she? And they never understood that she's in the hospital or she's sick or she has a headache that she can't control, so she couldn't come to school. Like, there would be days when I was in kindergarten and all my friends would be asking me, oh, where's your mom? Like, she was supposed to come today. And I didn't know how to explain it to them that she couldn't.
Or the PICC lines.
Or she had a PICC line and she couldn't move. Or she was bedridden because of something. Or something like that. Like, it was just hard to deal with because no one really understood why she really wasn't around as much or why she would always be in her bed, laying down asleep. Like, my friends would come over and be like, oh, where's your mom? I want to say hi. And I'd have to say she has one of her headaches. Like, you can't. And it was just hard because no one understood and no one was there for me to talk to.
Mm-hmm. Who did you reach out to for support, you know, besides your mother and father? Did you have a best friend that you could talk to? Did you?
It was my older brother's friends, because they were 2 years older. They understood it a little bit more. I could go to them. Like, a few months ago when I found out that she was going to have another surgery here soon, I was texting one of them because I broke down in the middle of the night because it just scares me so much that she has to go through that again. Because you don't want to see your mom so sick and in so much pain. And no one my age understands it. No one my age knows that it's okay if your mom's not always there. Like, she doesn't have to go to every function. She doesn't have to be there. Yes, she still cares about you, but they don't understand that she's sick, and
They can't see it.
they can't see it, so they don't understand, and that's what hurts. Like, I try to explain it to them, and they're like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't have all the answers for you. I'm just 15. I'm just this little person. Like, I don't understand it all, and I probably never will understand it. And it just sucks that no one would be there for me.
You know, as you were talking, and Andre, I don't know what your plans are, but in my spirit, what I'm hearing is that you can start to spread awareness, and you can be as strategic as you want, young lady. You hear me? Because you can help get the word out. It can start with you in your community. You understand? And it can spread abroad. You can start some type of cause to get the word out about this so people can really understand it. And you will attract so many other young people who have mothers or fathers going through this, or even the young people who have IIH. I don't know what you want to do with that. Talk to your parents, but I see you have such a fire inside of you that people will listen to you, because I'm telling you, what you just said a moment ago is so much bottled up inside of you. People don't even know half of the story, half of the journey. I know there are nights you spent crying about your mom, wondering whether or not you will still have her here, and God still allowed her to live. It's for a reason, because we believe, God, that there will be a cure for this thing eventually. But let me tell you, you can start a cause. And and whatever you want to, if it's a bracelet you want to sell, or if it's t-shirts, I don't know what it is that you want to do. But if you want to do it, you can do it. And people will begin to understand. The people who doubted you, the people who bullied you, the people who didn't fully understand, they would know just by you sharing. So I just want to say that to you. I'm not done asking you any questions, but I just want to say that to you, because I know it hasn't been easy. What has been your biggest fear since your mom has gone through all of this? The biggest fear?
Not seeing her anymore, like her not being there for me, and not having her is really hard to even think about.
I'm not going anywhere.
I know you're not.
I have too much to do.
See there? She has too much.
I'm stubborn.
I know you are, okay?
And can I say something to you as well, sweetie? Don't hold back those tears. I want people to feel what you're feeling right now. They'll never feel it all, but they need to be able to relate and to, understand the journey. They don't really know. And so they think they know. They think it's not that bad, but they don't know unless they have a loved one going through it as well. So don't suppress those tears. Let those tears fall, because guess what? tears also bring about healing. And so don't suppress your tears. Don't suppress your tears at all. If for the young people who are watching, who are going through this, who have IIH, what advice would you give to them right now?
Be open to talk to someone. Don't just think, oh, I'm not dealing with it. Like, I don't have to go to my mom if I have something, or I don't have to go to that person if I have something that I need to talk to. There was nights where I would be going through something and I didn't want to bother her because she had a headache, or I didn't want to talk to her because I knew she wasn't doing well, or she just got out of a surgery. Like, still talk to them, still keep them there, but also have someone else, if they are in surgery or they're not home at the time, have someone else to talk to. Have that person that you can trust. Build up your friend group. Build up people that will stand by you no matter what. Like, don't be afraid. I don't want to say don't be afraid, because yes, it is still scary, like having your parents go through surgery or having that person that's close to you go through surgery, but don't always think so negatively about it. Don't go into thinking, oh, this is going to be the last time that I see them. Like, don't think I'm not going to see them again after this. Like, you have to have some hope that it's going to get better and that they are going to make it through the surgery, or that they are going to get their pain medication that day, or they are going to get the spinal tap and it's going to go well and they're going to be okay. Like, you can't be so negative about it.
Mm-hmm. Have you written about your mother's journey? Have you like found yourself writing poems, or just, have you have a diary? You ever just journal your thoughts out of curiosity?
Yeah. I remember I asked for one for Christmas when I was 6 because that's when it started getting bad with her surgeries and her being gone all the time. And it's almost as if I was writing to her, telling her what the day was like that day, just so then if she couldn't go outside that day, I could give it to her and I could let her know, oh, there was butterflies everywhere, or oh, it was raining, or it was snowing, or because I hate that she has to miss out on some things, or she feels like she's missing out on stuff, because you never want to hear someone say that they have no social life, or their life doesn't have a purpose, or they don't have a reason, like they can't move, or you never want to hear that. And it's hard because there are some days where she would wake up and she couldn't even have a light on in the room. And you had to whisper to her to talk to her. Or she would be vomiting and you'd have to sit through that. And it's just...
I appreciate you sharing that information, because this is what we want people to hear, and a lot of times they don't know. And so I'm hoping that some of your classmates will go back and watch this video. I want to say to you that the journal you have, or the diary, whatever you call it, do not misplace it. At some point in your life, you may be using that journal to publicize it, to help other young warriors and other warriors overall. Your daughter, Andrea, I don't know what it is about her tonight. Let me tell you, I'm feeling all kind of things tonight. I'm not a psychic, honey, but I am a believer. And what I can tell you, just something special about you, young lady. She is a warrior. And you're going to be the one to help us get the word out about IIH, to help us raise awareness. And whatever you have in your journal, let me tell you, it's going to be a blessing, not only to you, I'm sure it's a blessing to your parents. Have you shared it with them before?
I think I shared it with my mom once, but I don't think I've shared it with anyone else.
Ooh, it's going to be a blessing.
What to do.
I took a trip my 8th grade year to SLU, which is one of the colleges out here, and they had a biomedical engineering program. and I walked in the room, and there was a student there who was trying to figure out a way to create something to get rid of cancer cells that would get rid of all of them. And I sat there, and I think I talked with him for an hour about it, just asking him what made him do this, why he wants to do this, how he came up with this, how many trials did he go through, how long did it take him to build this, and all these things. And then a light bulb went off, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to school for this. And I may not be the one to figure it out, but I want to be one of the people to figure out either a less invasive way to do the surgeries, or figure out where it comes from, or even a cure. Because I don't want anyone else to have to go through this. Because seeing someone in so much pain that you can't help is something that no one should ever have to go through.
And I agree. I told you I knew it was something special about you, young lady. You're making me speechless right now. It's kind of really hard for me to move on right now, because the more she talks, Andrea, let me tell you, she is amazing.
She is.
And let me tell you, when you get ready to start with this cause, at some point, maybe after this pandemic, once it is over, and when you start your movement, I'm going to try my best to come out. Whatever you may be hosted in your area, I'm going to try my very best to come out so I can be a part of it as well. So
awesome.
Just keep me posted in advance. I love to travel. And I used to, before the pandemic, I limited my flights per month, or, per quarter, or however, so I wouldn't, be flying as much as I was before. It doesn't bother me, but I get a little afraid flying sometimes, not knowing how I feel afterwards. But I will say this, I can fly, and it was mainly me just living in fear, and I had to get over that. But I will come once we're over this pandemic, and because I know you're going to do great things. And I'm speechless right now, because if you keep talking, honey, let me tell you, listen, when you speak, people listen. So don't you worry about those bullies. You understand? Because they're going to come to you and apologize. Maybe not all of them, but some of them will be coming to you to apologize and let you know they didn't realize you were going through, that your mother was going through that. And they're going to be apologetic to you. And so it may not happen right now, but trust and believe it will be coming. They'll be very sorrowful that they even picked on you because your mother wasn't there, because they didn't truly understand. And so what do you want your mother to know right now? After everything she's gone through, what do you want her to know right now?
That you're my hero, and you're who I look up to every day, because even on your bad days, you would still get up and get us ready for school and take us out to the bus stop and say goodbye, and you would always be there when I get home.
I love you.
Oh my goodness. That was sweet.
We're in this together.
Yeah. That's we're not done. Excuse me. I told you was going to do this. We're not done. We will stay connected, because
Definitely.
if you need me along the way, for guidance on anything, and we can work together. But whatever you will be doing, you really don't need my help, young lady. You're going to do amazing things in life. And I do know one of this initiative that you will be doing, you will receive overwhelming support. So your mother, has a powerful testimony. And I know that we're going to get through this, and I'm hoping and praying that in our lifetime that we'll be able to be here for the cure. And when it is realized, when it's when they find it, and so I'll be so happy for us to be here when it happens. And when I say that, sweetie, it's not saying that we're leaving. I'm just saying maybe we'll be well up in age. However, hopefully we'll be in our lifetime, like right now, within the next 3 to 5 years. That is my prayer. But we'll just believe in the Lord that He will continue to carry us through, and that people will have support like James, like your father, and like you. Oh my goodness. If people had the support like your family, Andrea, they'll be able to get through this, any sickness, just knowing they have that type of support. So again, I am speechless tonight, because your family is a blessing. And it's good to know that you have this type of support. And I see why you can hold your head up high. I see how you are of good cheer. And I understand there are days it can be very challenging for you, but to know you have the support that you have, oh, you can run on and see what the end is going to be, because it's going to be a great ending. And so I thank you both for coming on. I thank James. I thank you, young. Listen here. Get started. Write in your journal tonight, whatever it is that you plan to do, whatever you want to call it, be strategic, draw out. You could even design your own logo for it. Just sketch it out in your journal and then go from there. Let me tell you, don't try to, there's so many other groups out there that are doing so many great things, but yours is going to be different from the rest. So you be as creative as you want to be. I'm touched right now. I really can't really go on any further. And I need to check on Facebook to see if we have any questions, because I am speechless. Your daughter has really put me in a place tonight that, sometimes I get speechless, and sometimes I forget, I lose my train of thought, and I think that's just coming with age. I'm not going to even put it off on IIH. But let me tell you, she is amazing. So I'm trying to look here to see if we have any questions before we close tonight, to see if anybody else have any questions. I see, Andrea, that a lot of people have come in and actually just want to thank you, because truly you're a warrior. And I want you to know that, one, that we support you, and I thank you for coming on to share your story, because I'm hoping that it'll reach the people that it needs to reach, and the people who have yet to realize that they have IIH. And tonight, after watching your video, they would know what to look for. In fact, Andrea, tell them the final thing before we close. What are some signs to look for if they think they may be experiencing IIH?
Some of the signs, like I said before, not everybody has papilledema, which is pressure behind your optic nerve. So if a doctor says that just because your opening pressure is higher than normal, that because you don't have papilledema, that doesn't mean that you don't have IH. That doesn't exclude it. You don't have to have every symptom. Not everybody's going to be the same. Nobody's, runs the exact same symptoms. You've got the tinnitus, which you could hear just a whooshing sound in your ear or your heartbeat. The debilitating headaches, some it may just feel like a migraine. Some it may be to the point where like you can't lay down, you can't stand up, you can't move. The vision changes, any double vision, blurry vision. I remember, I think, if I remember correctly, when it started coming back after I was in remission, I started having like flashes of light and then flashes of black, but I had no idea what it was. I thought I didn't. I had never thought it would come back, actually. I knew it could, but I figured I had, 2 other live births. So, and it doesn't discriminate no matter what, if you're skinny, you're heavier, if you're white, you're black, you're Indian, it old, young, male or female, it doesn't discriminate at all. And they're finding, like I said, a lot more younger kids and children, teenagers and men. And it's not just how they thought it was children of their childbearing ages develop IH. They're finding it in everybody. Not everybody, but a lot more people, I should say. I lost sound with you.
My apologies.
That's okay.
So thank you for sharing that. So everybody will know what symptoms to look for if they think they may be experiencing IIH. And so in closing, I want you just to share advice you would give to someone who's living with IIH. And because with me, my symptoms are not as severe as most people with IIH. So, and I thank God that He is, He's been with each of us on this journey. But then you have people like yourself. You're dislocated from work. You're no longer, by you not being employed right now, and you're not being able to do certain things like you did once before.
Right. I can't drive.
So there's so many people who have it and have lost hope. And I would say one of the contributing reasons why they have lost hope, they don't have a great support system. And then some, they may have it, but they're pushing them away because they feel bad because they're dependent on a spouse or significant other or their child. And they want to be there for them, but they're pushing them away because they're no longer independent anymore. So give them some advice to build their faith and to restore their hope.
One, if you don't have the support, there are so many people that you can reach out to, especially like on Facebook and the support groups. Any one of us, we're all there for each other. We're in this together. We're fighting it. We're trying to, figure out the ways and figure out the paths that we need to go. And some don't have good healthcare. Some are looking for different doctors. You just have to keep that open mind and not close yourself off. Because once you close yourself off and you feel like you've lost hope, that's when you get to the point where I was, and you just need to reach out to anybody and like, I'm willing to talk to anybody. I've talked to a lot of people that have been so down that they didn't know what to do or where to turn. And I will stay up all night and help in days and just help them try to get through it. Because we'll eventually, as the more that we can all get it out and get the awareness out, the more these doctors are going to be able to eventually do something less invasive, and things will, be better. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but we'll get there.
Exactly. And what advice would you give to someone?
For?
I want to go back to your daughter.
Oh.
What advice, my apologies, I think the sound was going out. What advice do you want to give to the youth who suffer with IIH?
that it is okay to be scared, and it is okay to cry, and it's okay to open up to people. You don't have to stay strong and always be so happy and cheerful. It's okay to have those bad days where you're sad or you're just not doing so well or you're frustrated, because being so young, you don't understand everything, and it's hard to understand things. So it's okay to be frustrated and to not understand. Just talk to someone when you have those days. Be willing to open up. Be willing to share what you're going through, to share your story, to just have faith that it's going to be okay, that you're going to get through that day, that you're the person who's going through it is, or if you have it, that you're going to make it through that day, and be happy that you do have days with those people, because I do know people who have lost someone close to them. So don't take days for granted. Don't think, oh, she's sick, she can't do it. Oh, I can't go. They're still people. They're still human. They can talk. You can go to them. Just don't be so afraid of it.
Thank you so much. And I want to address your bullies before we leave tonight. Before you pick on someone with a disease, before you pick on someone who has a parent with a disease, take time to read about it, to learn about it, learn all you can about it before you open your mouth and start picking on someone, because you really don't know to the extent what a person is going through with a disease. This one here, it's rare. So if you knew what a person went through on a daily basis and how it alters their life, you would not be quick to pick on a person. And so I'm hoping that the people who have picked on you will watch this video from the beginning to the end so they can get an understanding. And then when they're done watching this video, that they will Google IIH, so they can learn more about it, because it really changes a lot for a warrior, and your mother, all that she's gone through, 30 surgeries, over 300 spinal taps. I can't even begin to wrap my mind around it, Andrea, that you've gone through that, and to see you here, but I can understand why you can hold your head up high, like I told you, is because you have a great support system. And my prayer is for the people who don't have one.
Exactly.
That they get a great support system, that people be more willing, more patient with these people, with the people who are going through this. So that's what my prayer is. And ladies, I thank you for your time tonight. Please give my love to James as well. I feel like you are my extended.
Yeah, I'm right over here.
Hi. I feel like you're my extended family now, and
definitely.
I really feel like this is not it for us, and I'm so looking forward to what is to come in the future for us. And I just believe that, Andrea, over time, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, but I'm just believing, God, that your symptoms that you're experiencing now, that they will lessen, and that the retention of the spinal fluid that your body is retaining, that it will stop. And just like God bless you to go in remission before he can do it again. And that's what I touch and agree with you, and believe that God can do it again. And you, young lady, when you decide to launch your project, let me tell you, you're going to take off. But go ahead and create your plan now, because you're going to get so much support. It's going to be overwhelming. And I just believe, and I believe God is not a man that he should lie. when he puts something on someone's heart to share, you best believe he can back it up. So you just plan accordingly and don't worry about resources for anything, because people will pour out and they will help you, and you just keep me posted when you're ready to get started.
Okay.
Thank you and your family, Andrea. I really appreciate it. This has been a blessing. I told you I was going to get up and get my Kleenex, and honey, I cannot wait to end the video so I can go and do what I need to do, because it was great. And that young lady there, oh my goodness, you are such a blessing. Let's keep in touch. And so again, everyone, thank you for watching tonight. This concludes our interview. And so again, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.